Welcome to the 2015 Village of Ossining Police Memorial and Award Service. This is a big night for us. This is a special day for us. In addition to the awards tonight, at the Westchester County Journal News Awards tomorrow, which we used to call the Macy Awards, they've been giving them since 1955, officers from this police department are going to win 2 out of the 3 first place prizes down at the county center. So this is quite a year for us. We're very proud of our officers. Thank you so much for coming. For openers, I'd just like to acknowledge the officers that put this together tonight. Lieutenant Sylvester, Sergeant Damiano, Officer Carpenter did a fantastic job. I think as we go through the service, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. They put a lot of hard work into this to their credit. For openers, I would like to thank the Village Board and Towns Boards for coming tonight. And I'd like to call Detective Aaron Zimmerman up front as the PBA President to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Now a couple of opening comments from Chief Burton.
As we said, we'll keep everything on short and sweet. Thank you for coming. It's nice to see an overcrowd going out the door. And just to be very quickly, I'd just like to introduce our Mayor, Victoria Garrity.
Thank you, Chief. It is my distinct privilege to have an opportunity to address you very briefly this evening on behalf of the entire Village Board of Trustees. Many of my colleagues are here. If you wouldn't mind just standing, Deputy Mayor and Trustee Omar Herrera, Trustee John Codman, and Trustee Manuel Quesada, who also acts as our liaison to the police department. So I know this is especially particularly special for you this evening. And Trustee Dry would like to be here with us, but is still on his way home, I imagine. Thank you. It's tonight is about honoring the incredible contributions of, correct me if my numbers are wrong, but 23 members of this department, 3 members of OVAC, 3 of our paramedics, and 1 incredibly heads-up civilian for their remarkable contributions to keeping our community safe. At a time when our nation is facing a lot of challenges, we are so grateful that this department is so very well respected and embraced by our community. And I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity, with so many of the department members and family and elected officials here today, to acknowledge that for over a quarter of a century, the leader of this department has been a remarkable leader whom we have much to be thankful. Thank you, Chief Joseph Burton.
That last remark we're not going to put to a vote. As everybody I'm sure knows, that January 1st, we became a seamless department with all of Ossining. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Supervisor of the Town of Ossining, Sue Donnelly.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here tonight, and I want to thank all the officers, whether you're receiving a citation or an award or not, for everything that you do for this community. It's very important. We get nothing but great reports from the residents of the unincorporated area. I'd like to introduce with me tonight is Kim Jeffries, Councilwoman on the town of Ossining, Marianne Roberts, who is the town village clerk, and Dana Levenberg, who is the Chief of Staff for Sandy Galiff. So I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I want to thank this civilian. Great job. Everybody keep your eyes open. It's important in this community. We are a very large community, but very small family of people. So all of us together can make this a beautiful place. So thank you very much.
Now I'd like to turn this over to the captain, who will do the presentation of the awards, and I'll be back later.
with Sergeant Paul Schemmer, Sergeant Brendan Donahue, P.O. Jared Hadjistilianos, P.O. Anthony Stovall, P.O. Shelley Farrell, P.O. Clarence Fisher, P.O. John Pierre Chavez, and Dispatcher Megan Sacedo. Please step to the front. On February 25th, 2015, at approximately 4 o'clock, one of our crossing guards, Wesley Dunkley, contacted the police headquarters, reported that a disoriented female was trying to enter his vehicle about 25 yards down the road. Officers Anthony Stovall and Shelley Farrell quickly arrived at the scene and encountered this disoriented female. Due to the extreme cold temperature, the woman's attire, and her apparent disoriented state, officers quickly drove the woman to the police headquarters for evaluation. While at headquarters, the woman consented to a preliminary breath screening test, which revealed a blood alcohol concentration of .30. That's almost 4 times the legal limit, and I believe there was also phencyclidine involved as well. The woman was becoming increasingly agitated and confrontational. As medical personnel were preparing to transport the woman to Phyllis Memorial Hospital, Officer Stovall overheard that this woman had a 3-month-old baby. Officers immediately began the arduous task of locating this infant. Sergeants, patrol officers, dispatchers, Sacedo pieced together small tidbits of information and in a methodical and diligent manner forwarded this information to patrolling officers. The child was subsequently found inside the mother's vehicle, which was parked in a parking lot at the intersection of Spring Street and St. Paul's Place. It was well below freezing at the time the infant was located. Without question, if not for the persistence, instinct, and good judgment of the officers and the supervisors involved in this case, this child would have been lost. This is a solid team effort that saved the child's life, and all that participated should be proud of their efforts. For the record, I looked it up. It was 17 degrees that night. There's no way that 3-month-old child would have survived if it hadn't been for these officers here. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to call up Detective Lieutenant William Sullivan and P.O. Joseph Bracero.
Officer Bracero is being honored tonight for making an arrest of a suspect who was committing numerous burglaries in the Ossining area, north end of the village of Ossining. And through investigation, it was determined that he was wanted in Binghamton in Broome County for commission of at least 10 burglaries there. Officer Bracero was on an MTA train on his way to work, and remember that a police information was put out describing a subject who was wearing bright blue sneakers. This was given to us by a witness who had seen him and was very specific about the sneakers that this subject was wearing. Officer Bracero called ahead to headquarters and confirmed that the subject, Timothy Bryant, was wanted. He had Croton police, Ossining police at the 2 train stations waiting for to see which stop he got off. Fortunately for us, he got off at Ossining. He was taken into custody without incident. Broome County police responded, and He was sentenced to 7.5 to 10 years in Broome County for burglaries. Outstanding job by Joe Becerra, and congratulating for a job well done.
Thank you. I'd like to call up now Patrol Lieutenant Kevin Sylvester and Paramedic Police Officer Joseph Bacchiano.
On November 23, 2014, the Ossining Police Department received a 911 call requesting medical assistance following a domestic dispute. Officers were dispatched along with OVAC, and upon arrival, first responders met with the victim, who stated that her husband struck her several times to the face and body. She reported to officers that her husband was in an upstairs bedroom and that he was armed with a handgun. After several unsuccessful attempts to establish contact with the suspect, Paramedic Bacchiano, who serves as a detective with the New York City Police Department Emergency Services Unit, Squad 3, offered to assist since he has extensive training in dealing with barricaded suspects. After a protracted negotiation, Paramedic Bacchiano was able to negotiate a peaceful surrender, preventing a potentially deadly situation. In recognition of his highly credible accomplishment performed in the line of duty, bringing acclaim to himself, his department, and the police profession as a result of devotion of duty and service to the public, the Ossining Police Department is honored to present Paramedic Joseph Bacchiano with the Exceptional Duty Award. Sorry? Nick's back there.
I'd like to call up now Detective Lieutenant William Sullivan, Detective Sergeant Jeff Giorgio, Detective Donald Farrell, Detective Jose Ferreo, Detective Reginald Armstrong, and Detective Aaron Zimmerman.
And Detective Walker as well. We're all here? All right. On Wednesday, August 27, 2015, the Ossining Police Department initiated a homicide investigation for the death of a 28-year-old man who was found dead in his father's apartment. Police patrol responded to the scene, and upon observing the deceased, Sergeant Tolvey and patrol secured the scene in order to preserve evidence. Detective Lieutenant Sullivan took command of the scene and assigned each detective a specific portion of the case to handle. Through countless hours of combined effort, Ossining detectives were able to develop leads which took them into New Jersey, resulting in the location of a suspect who was subsequently arrested and charged in the death of the victim. This effort and hard work went beyond the Village Detective Division. It started with patrol and included the appropriate response and assistance from numerous jurisdictions in New Jersey, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In recognition of this highly credible accomplishment performed in the line of duty, bringing claim to themselves, their department, and the police profession as a result of devotion to duty and service to the public, the Ossining Police Department is honored to present the Investigative Award to these detectives.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. John Camilleri. I'd like to call up Officers Elliott, Lynham, Anthony Oliveri, Joe Spinelli, and Sergeant Richard Damiano. At approximately 5 a.m. on August 24th, 2014, John Camilleri observed two or three males forcing their way into his neighbor's house. Mr. Camilleri immediately called police and described to Officer Elliott what he was observing. Mr. Camilleri stated that his neighbors had recently passed away and no one should be in the house. As Officer Elliott dispatched units to the area, Mr. Camilleri stayed on the phone, giving officers updated information as they were responding to the residents. This information was crucial for responding officers. Mr. Camilleri was able to describe the suspect's exact location, where they had entered the residence, and the location of the stolen contents. Mr. Camilleri also told officers that his neighbor was an avid sportsman and he believed there were guns in the house. With this information provided by Mr. Camilleri, responding officers were able to quickly form a tight perimeter and arrest the burglary suspect as he exited the house. Upon further investigation by the Village of Ossining Detective Division, our detectives were fortunate to recover all the stolen items, as well as 2 high-power rifles. If not for John Camilleri's keen observation and up-to-minute details provided to the officers, this arrest might not have occurred. More importantly, the stolen firearms would have surely ended up on the streets of Ossining. Thank you, Mr. Camilleri, for being such a great neighbor. Thank you. Now I'd like to call up P.O. Pascual Santucci, P.O. Javier De Jesus, Paramedic Lisa Sillins, and Paramedic Catherine Steger. I'm going to read you the description of the events, and then we're actually going to watch it. Thanks to Officer Carpenter and the officer's point of view cameras, we're going to have an opportunity to see this after we discuss this. On January 31st at approximately 6 o'clock, officers received a call from the residents of 104 Croton Avenue on a report of a child having difficulty breathing. Upon arrival, officers Pascual Santucci and Javier De Jesus observed Miss Celia Tamay lying on the floor unconscious. Officers also observed 14-year-old Pamela Sari lying on the bed, also unconscious. Several family members were frantically trying to revive them. As Ossining's Volunteer Ambulance Corps arrived, the paramedics Lisa Sillins and Catherine Steger walked through the front door. A carbon monoxide alarm sounded. The CO alarm was attached to the paramedic Sillins' bag. The alarm signified there was a life-threatening amount of carbon monoxide in the home. Officers Santucci and De Jesus immediately took action and began to evacuate the large residence. Officers lifted and carried young Pamela Sari out the back door of the residence. Officers Santucci and De Jesus, fully aware of the life-threatening situation they were in and without hesitation, went back into the residence to retrieve Mrs. Celia Tamay. After officers were able to get both unconscious victims to safety, officers again went back to the residence to ensure nobody was left behind. A total of 10 family members were home at the time of the incident. If not for the quick actions and heroic efforts by Officers Santucci and De Jesus, an entire family could have been lost. Officer Carpenter is going to show us this video now. This is from the camera that was mounted on Officer Santucci's collar.
You may not be able to.
Ossining Police Officer Gallagher. My name is County Fire. Hey, what's up? What do you got? 13-year-old female, difficulty breathing. All right, I'll get him out there. Second. Bye. Post 4, can you respond for a female difficulty breathing? OVAX from dispatch. 10-4. Post 4 to 315. Start out ST for carbon monoxide. 10-4. They're being dispatched right now.
Ready to Jesus? Ready? No, stay out here. Ready? Go, 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 go. Ready? Go! Come on, out! You gotta go, you gotta go. No, ma? Come on, come on, come on. Come on, buddy.
Come on, buddy.
Come on, buddy. Come on.
That's pretty incredible footage. Amazing seeing it from that perspective. Gives us some small idea of exactly what they did that night, to their credit. I'd also like to point out that both officers had to be treated down at Phelps, as were the two folks they found lying unconscious at the time, but all are okay today. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to Chief Burton. We're going to talk a little bit about the memorial portion of tonight's service.
Okay, with that, a lot of those awards are edited. They're the Reader's Digest version. These things took a long time. The homicide took a while. It was into Jersey. Things that were cut out of there was how they executed search warrants in Jersey and recovered about 1,000 bags of heroin for the departments in New Jersey. And the burglary, it got funny at one point because we had to open up the garage door. And if the burglar had been in the garage, he would have walked right by us. Because in the garage, I don't know, the year was 66? 75 bright orange Corvette, I'm sorry. 75 bright orange Corvette sitting there, and everybody went, huh? And I said, if the bad guy was there, he was gone. He was off. With this, I have to, Scott stole my thunder and it thanked a lot of people, but let me do it again. Sergeant Richie Damiano put a lot together, a lot of efforts into the awards and making up the awards. Lieutenant Sylvester's running around all day today, making sure that things got done. And then Sergeant Brendan Donahue for video that we'll be seeing. Did a lot of work on editing that. Thank you, Brendan. And Pete Carpenter for the audio, video, sound, and everything else. And Pete, come on up here for a second. We don't have any awards for him, I don't think. Mayor? Come on, Sue. Senior?
So, Chief has given me the very distinct honor of getting to let most of the people in on a secret that only a few people know up to this point. A little while back, the Chief came to trustees and I and said he would like to appoint Officer Pete Carpenter to become Detective Pete Carpenter. Interestingly, not as in an investigative role, but in acknowledgement of his incredible contributions, the information technology that has become so integral to the success of protecting all of us, connecting with our community, and his tireless efforts to make this department what it is today. Oh, I have something to read. Yes. To make this official, to let you know what this is, what the chief is basing this on. In accordance with statute 5711Q, section 20 of the Unconsolidated Laws of New York, the chief of police may, from time to time, detail to detective duty as many members of the force as he may deem necessary to make the service efficient. And he may at any time revoke such detail. We want to make sure you heard that part. Police Officer Peter Carpenter, with the approval of the mayor, enthusiastic approval of the mayor and trustees of the Board of the Village of Ossining in their capacity as Board of Police Commissioners, hereby appoints you to the position of detective effective May 11th, 2015.
Got him. They got him. All day. Okay, now. Here, now you have.
Thank you, and I don't know. Just thank you. Just thank you, and you know it's an honor and privilege, and thank you. I'll talk tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, hey, Elizabeth, come on. Here, come take a picture.
Now Pete has to get back to work. We got him. Do we have to give you time to get to the next part? Okay. This concludes the awards part of it. Now we come to the memorial part of it. Our fallen officers. Police Officer Gerald Birdsall was on patrol March 30th, 1933, and around 8 p.m., he was dispatched to investigate a minor motor vehicle accident on North Highland Avenue in the vicinity of Cedar Lane Terrace. While Police Officer Birdsall was on scene, an 18-year-old driver approaching the accident, his brakes failed, and he lost control of his car, drove off the roadway, and struck the police officer, killing him instantly. The driver of the car was charged with technical homicide. Remember, that's 1933. Police Officer Birdsall started his career in Briarcliff and rose to the rank of lieutenant before he was transferred into Ossining in 1927. Police Officer Birdsall was a renowned boxer in Westchester County, boxing at the Olive Opera House. Police Officer Birdsall was 44 years old, was married, and the father of 2 girls, age 18 and 11. Police Officer Birdsall's funeral was at St. Paul's Church, and he was buried in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. The next one is a little longer because it was something that people see on television. You almost expect James Cagney to start coming up with a Thompson machine gun and start shooting up the room. And I bring this to you as I sort of visualize this whole action. On Easter Sunday night, April 13th, 1941, police officer James Warden Fagan is getting ready to start his day as a 7-year veteran of the Ossining Police Department, working the 12-day tour of April 14th. He probably kissed his wife goodbye, looked in on his 19-month-old son, and left the house on Lafayette Avenue. He probably stood on the front porch, looked at the evening sky, and glanced to his left to look at Sing Sing prison cell blocks that was a short distance from his house. Unknown to him, he was looking at Sing Sing, not knowing that 3 prisoners were lying in the hospital ward, awaiting for time to pass as the night they would kill Correctional Officer John Hardy inside the prison hospital ward and escape through the steam tunnel. While on routine patrol at about 2:30 a.m., Officer Fagan and his partner, Officer William Nelson, are in the area of the Ossining train station when they encounter 3 people. Something that's not out of the ordinary, but something that had to be investigated. The officers were not aware, as no warning was given by Sing Sing, of an over-the-wall escape from the prison a few minutes before the chance encounter. To these officers, maybe it was just a couple of drunks wandering around the area, but they need to be checked. Without a word, gunfire erupts. Officer Fagan's gold uniform jacket button is flattened by a pistol shot that passes through to his heart. Though gravely injured, Police Officer Fagan fires back, and his partner, Police Officer Nelson, also returns fire, Nelson killing one of the escapees. The 2 other escapees run from the scene, only to be captured hours later. Police Officer Nelson lifts his bleeding partner into the police car, racing him to the Ossining Hospital, where he dies. The 2 escapees were tried for the murder of the correctional officer John Hardy, and in June 1941, you have to remember this started April 1941, now we're in June 1941, were convicted of first-degree murder. The 2 returned to Sing Sing prison to the death house. June 1942, they were executed in an electric chair. Escaped, captured, tried, convicted, sentenced, and executed in 14 months. On April 17th, a funeral was conducted for Police Officer Fagan. According to news reports, the funeral left Officer Fagan's home on Lafayette Avenue, led by 65 motorcycles, an honor guard on the side of the hearse, and hundreds of police officers who marched to the old site of St. Augustine Church, about 1.33 miles. After the solemn mass, they proceeded to St. Augustine Cemetery. Mrs. Fagan lived in the same house overlooking the prison until 2 years before her death in 2003. She and the daughter of Police Officer Birdsall were able to join the village in September 2000 when the police headquarters and the court facility were named in memory of both officers, the Birdsall-Fagan Police Court Facility. And now, lights.
To the right. Slow. March.
Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry we put it on a downer at the end, but the cookies and cake and coffee back there, so enjoy yourself. And Village Board, hurry to your next meeting, please.